We had 4 cans of Puritan brand stew, 2 bags of potatoes, soon a spore, a Coleman stove, a 5-gallon jug of water. We huddled around a scented candle because the electricity had been out for 2 days. My mom sat close to the candle so she could read. My dad was close to the candle so he could do a Sudoku puzzle. Monica had promised to be here with me when we'd Skyped at the beginning. But she was not. She was not answering her phone. And I was leery of traveling the 2 blocks to her parents' house due to the anger-diseased citizens of LSC liable to harm me. Also, Monica's parents weren't fond of the age gap between us. Though she had reached legal age of emancipation and nothing statutory was being perpetrated. The age of consent in Canada is 16.00. I was 19.75. In the 19th century, the term outrage was a euphemism for rape. After Albert Fish was apprehended, he was adamant that he did not outrage his child victim Grace Budd, even though he cut her into pieces and ate her. I was hoping Monica had not been outraged, in either the antiquated or now quite contemporary sense of the word. I also hoped she had not become angry herself. Some can sublimate the anger disease, sexually, that is, at least for a period, I'd read. Naturally, I was willing to help her with that, as we'd already been dating for almost a month. Cellular signals were still working at this time, so Twitter and Facebook were available on my phone. Fortunately, I had 2 heavy-duty external battery packs for playing Ingress. On the internet, a lot of jokes about the anger disease accompanied the angry comments. Even in end times, irony was a predominant mode of social media discourse. Eschatological irony turned out to be the richest irony of all. Many tarred the grumpy cat memes, believe that. I learned that Bob Dylan had been killed in concert by a Bob Dylan enthusiast. I'd always planned to celebrate Bob's death with a bottle of scotch and Facebook photos of me drinking the scotch. And then maybe as the night wore on, I'd record covers for a YouTube video, even though I'm not a great singer. But we only had 1 bottle of whiskey, and my dad said we needed to save it as both a possible disinfectant and as a possible accelerant. As an accelerant, we could weaponize the whiskey. Pour the whiskey on a rag, create a bindle, wave the burning bindle at the angry citizens of LSC when they encroached on our property type thing. "Should we board up the windows?" my mom asked. "Don't exactly have large enough boards for it," said Gary. "2 doors nailed together?" "Not altogether confident that would work." Fire had consumed the town's lone mall, the Central Mall. Mood efforts to extinguish were made by the few remaining members of our volunteer fire department. Looting was then limited by the town's lack of a mall. So the smaller stores were looted until empty. Prescient owners of the smaller stores had headed home with whatever supplies they could carry, push, or drag. This was how it happened in LSC. Things were no doubt uglier in New York City or Cadillac, Michigan. My dad feared it to be drinking water related, so he had a touchy relationship with our stores of drinking water. But thirsty as he was, he had to take sips. He tried to compensate with a large Tupperware container out on the porch to catch rain. But who could say if the disease wasn't rained down from a malevolent god or some sky devil in the first place? Less blue-eyed people were angry than brown-eyed people, said reports. My eyes were blue. My mother's were blue. My father had black eyes because he was African Canadian. I didn't know how black eyes ranked compared to brown eyes. My father was actually my stepfather, but since he'd been around since I was 2 years old, I referred to him only as father, or more commonly as dad, or even more commonly, by his name of Gary.